a month ago. The pole was down.
Forward. March. Wheel to the left by company. March. Company, halt. Color guard, rest your firelocks. Suppression sleeping again. Order your firelocks. Ground your arms. Color guard, post. Company, present your arms. God save great George our King. God save our noble King. God save the King. Send him victorious, happy and glorious, long to reign over us. God save the King. Shoulder your firelocks. Color guard, as you were. Take up your firelock. Rest your firelock. Shoulder your arm. That's second and third rank. Make ready. Present. Fire! Recover. Shoulder your arm. Wheel to the right, by company. March. To the right about, by company. Up. Take care. Ladies and gentlemen, what we're going to do is demonstrate the manual of arms, which was the drill that soldiers would go through on a daily basis to keep their muscle memory up, to keep them ready for war, so they would simply react to the commands and not have to slow down and think about it. We would prefer they do as little thinking as possible. Once we do the manual of arms, we'll march the troops out through the gate just out front, and we will demonstrate the loading and firing of the musket. Prepare to open your files to the left, by the left, fight. Mark. Halt. your firelock. Order your arms. Round your firelock. Take up your firelock. Rest your firelock. Club your firelock. Rest your firelock. Shoulder your firelock. Secure your arms. Shoulder your arms. Poise your firelock. Rest upon your arms. Drop bayonets. Fix bayonets. Poise your bayonet. Shoulder arms. Present your arms. To the left, fight. To the left, about, fight. To the left, fight. To the right, fight. To the right, about, fight. To the right, fight. Charge your bayonet.
Huzzah!
Recover. One more time for posterity, and hopefully at the same time. Charge your bayonet.
Huzzah!
Better. Recover. Poise your bayonet. Rest upon your arms. Unfix bayonets. Return your bayonet. Blakely. Always my problem, child. Being outdone by the blue coat team. Sad. Sad. Poise your firelock. Shoulder your arm. Prepare to close your files to the right. By the right. Face. March. Rear rank close to wheeling distance. March. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we will march just outside the gates now. If you'd like to follow us, we'll show you how these things work. Wheel to the right about by company. March. 50, roughly, or 3 ranks of 30, give or take men, depending on the number of men actually in the company. And they would all load at the same time. They're watching the corporal on the front corner there on the right. When he turns around, they all turn around, and they will all fire at the same time. So you're talking about 100 muskets all firing simultaneously as opposing force. If there were 3 lines of men, the front line would kneel, the other 2 lines would remain standing, and they would all fire at the same time. So you're talking about throwing at least 100 projectiles somewhere between the kneecaps and the neck of the opposing force. Mike, ready? Present. Fire! Prime it, load. Now, a British soldier could load and fire 3 rounds a minute. These men are not good British soldiers, so they will be loading and firing slower. All right? But your average British soldier at the time could load and fire 3 shots a minute. Now, that doesn't seem very fast by modern weaponry standards, but when you think of all the steps they're having to go through to put everything inside that weapon, it obviously is pretty good speed. Now, the gun is a 75 caliber smoothbore musket. It's shooting a 69 caliber ball, which is obviously smaller, so it bounces around in there a little bit. And that's part of the reason the guns are inaccurate. Plus, they're not rifled. They're just smooth, so it's just a metal tube. The ball comes out and kind of goes where it wants to some degree. The enemy, we needed within 100 yards for certain. We would prefer they be within 30 yards. That's why you see them march out and shoot into each other, because they had to be that close to hit anything. Make ready! Present! Fire! Recover. Private Kirby, if you don't get knocked unconscious, please come over and explain to them what you're doing. Come to the order once you're clear.
Folks, good lieutenant's already mentioned a few things about our muskets. Just want to give you a closer look. Hope anyone would like to come in closer to get a look at it. It is a flintlock musket, and this part of the musket, all the moving parts, collectively are known as the lock. The lock incorporates a piece of flint. It's a very hard stone, and it's so hard, it's harder than some tempered steel. And it's hard enough that when it strikes this piece of tempered steel, we call a hammer, it will shave pieces of that steel off. And the resulting friction causes those little bitty pieces of steel that got shaved off to ignite. We see it as sparks. I would show you, but being as bright as it is, we won't be able to see them today, but trust me, they're there. That is the ignition system for our musket. To load this musket, you can see that every soldier, including myself, is wearing this black bag on their hip. It's called our cartridge box, and it contains our ammunition. That's how we carry it. It's 3 rolled in paper tubes with a musket ball at the bottom, enough powder at the top for 1 shot, and the paper itself served as wad and kept the ball. So the first step, after tearing open our cartridge, is to pour a little bit of the powder into our priming pan where that, hopefully those sparks are going to happen. The rest of our powder charge goes right down the barrel, and if we were actually shooting a musket ball, we just go ahead and shove the ball and paper and everything. But since we're that one incident where we killed a few voters out there, we don't fire balls anymore. So we'll put that in my hat there. Take our rammer and make sure that our powder charge and our musket ball is seated all the way at the bottom of the barrel, right down there. Hopefully what's going to happen when I pull the trigger is the flint's going to come forward and it's going to strike the steel hammer, causing sparks. At the same time, that steel hammer is going to flip forward, exposing the powder underneath, which will ignite. And then there's a very small hole that leads from this pan where that little bit of powder is to the inside of the barrel. Hopefully the flame will travel through that hole to the inside of the barrel for my main charge. And this musket, as you can see, black powder leaves a filthy residue. If it gets too dirty, this will fire. So far, this one's doing okay. But it definitely needs cleaning. Big fire! Folks, anyone have any questions about the musket?
Does it have a name that it goes by?
The Longland Pattern King's Arm. We called it the King's Arm, or my firelock for short. And this musket, in one configuration or another, they changed a few things over the years. Barrel length, they changed, minute things, the shape of this part, the shape of that part. But basically, the same musket could issue British troops starting in the 1730s, all the way up to the Napoleonic. We're looking at about 85 years worth of service. Any other questions? All right, thank you very much, ladies.
I like the hoorah. They still use that.
All right, so now what I'm going to do is march the soldiers back inside so they can get some water and cool off. Feel free to follow us if you haven't seen the surgeon yet. Feel free to get the children get them warmed. The laundry ladies, I believe, are still over there using the laundry. And if you have any questions or any answers, just find somebody in school and please read.
We've just seen Will, your surgeon. He's terrific.
Don't tell him.
Well,
His head will swell up, he can't get out the door.
But seriously,
He is very
for
good.
anyone who's interested in medicine of that area, he's very good.
All right, thank you very much, folks. Take care. I shouldn't stop. Wheel to the left by company, and I do mean the left. Up.
Sponge piece. The piece is secure. Man the walking. Ladies and gentlemen, the gun we just fired is it's called a 3-pounder, and that refers to the weight of the iron shot that it shoots. It shoots a 3-pound iron ball. The tube itself is much heavier. It weighs over 300 pounds. Here at Fort Loudon, they had 12 of those great guns brought over the mountain at considerable expense, as there were no roads to this area. Right now, the lads are going to be firing a smaller version of artillery called a wall gun or a rampart piece. It's built like the muskets that every soldier carried. It's just, as you can see, much, much larger. And it will be used in defense of the fort walls. It's mobile. You can pick it up and move around where you want it. It is a 94 caliber piece, so it shoots quite a large projectile as well. It can shoot a solid ball almost an inch across, or you can load it with smaller shot and use it like a giant shotgun. Firing wall gun! As you can see, the shot was very damaging, but just the sound, the report, the smoke, the shockwave would be psychologically imposing as well. I would not want to try to breach the wall with one of these on it. We're going to fire the wall gun one more time, and in a minute or two, we're going to fire the 3-pounder again. In battle situations, it can be fired quite rapidly, but for safety's sake, we like to give it a few minutes between shots so I don't blow up the cannon crew. Firing wall gun! The process for loading and firing the cannon, as you heard before, I had to give out several commands in preparation to load the cannon and then afterwards to ensure that the cannon was safe. The first command is to tend vent. This gentleman here has a thumb stall. It's a leather thumb cover that he moistens with water, and he holds it over the touch hole in the cannon to make an airtight seal, so that when we put the other implements down the tube, no air can come out. There's no airflow in or out. The next command is to search the piece with this corkscrew-like device to make sure there's no foreign objects in there, because that can turn out bad for us. And then we sponge the piece with this lamb's wool sponge. It's also been dipped in water to extinguish any sparks that might still be in there. And then we prime the piece. The man with the thumb stall takes out this little brass pick, and, well, actually, we load the cartridge. I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself. We do load the cartridge. It's all wrapped together, the shot, the powder, everything, usually in a linen bag. It's put down the barrel. It's rammed down with the other end of the sponge. And then the man takes the brass pick, goes down through the touch hole, and pierces that cartridge to expose the powder. He then takes out a musket cartridge, a little paper tube full of black powder, and pours it into the touch hole. Fills the touch hole up with that black powder so it's mounted up on top. And finally, when we're ready to fire, the man with the link stock, which is a burning piece of rope, touches that little bit of powder on top of the touch hole, and that hopefully sets everything off. Gus, ready to go again? Yep. All right, man the piece. Okay. Tend bent. Search piece. Advance sponge. Sponge piece. Advance cartridge, 3-pound grape shot. Charge with cartridge. Ram down cartridge. To battery. Prime. Take aim! Yes, fire! From battery. Tend bent. Surge piece. Advance sponge. Sponge piece. Piece is secure. Fall into the rear of the gun. For the good of the service, cannoneers, dismiss.
God save the king!